This is LOA Recon with Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we explore the ins and outs of conscious creation to manifest our favorite dreams come true. Let's have some fun together. I've got dogs and cats who can't decide whether they want to be in here or not. I made some changes in here. Super homemade, super low-tech soundproofing changes. That's making Harvey a little nervous, but it's also made the cats really curious. So I've just invited everyone to not be in here. If you hear scratching on the other side, it's a cat. It would never be Harvey who would do such a thing. But my apologies in advance. And you know what? I don't actually know if this is worth it. I don't know if it's going to make any difference for you, but that's because I don't know a lot of things about how to make a good podcast for you. You know, the only reason we have an outro is because a listener wrote me one day saying, Jeanette, your podcast needs an outro. I didn't even know that. So if you've got ideas about how I can make this better for you, please let me know. I'm literally counting on you to help me make this better. Okay, so I had a cool topic in mind for today, but something amazing just happened that I want to share about, which gives me an excuse to talk about Samson's second birthday today, which is always my joy. So, of course, we're going there. So you'll remember Samson, a.k.a. what else? Winston, a.k.a. Scooby. He's had some different names. He's the puppy that I rescued at 6 months old. Remember how I got the phone call? I love telling this story. I got the phone call that a 6-week-old puppy needed rescue. I was like, give me the address. I don't even need to hear anymore. They're telling me the circumstances. I was like, I don't even need to know anymore. Just give me the address. 6-week-old puppy? Yeah, I'm on it. Where? Okay. And then I got there. Oh, the nicest woman. I just texted her today. The nicest lady. You would think for as many times as I have recorded a podcast, I'd remember I need to bring Kleenex with me because a lot of times when I tell a story, I get emotional and then I'm sniffing through this thing, which I don't know how to edit out. Oh, okay, I probably do know how. I just don't think I have joy for doing that much editing. So I'll try not to get emotional. But when I recall, I met her in a parking lot. It was a mom who they needed to give up their family dog. They'd reached out to rescue for help, and that's how I got the phone call. So I met her in the parking lot, and I'm expecting a 6-week-old puppy. Remember me? I didn't ask for a lot of details. Yeah. She opens the back of her SUV, and it was a 6-month-old puppy. Great Pyrenees puppy. Yes, he was still a puppy at 6 months, but he looked like a big dog already. And when he stood up, oh my gosh, it literally took my breath away. I was speechless. He was so stunning. He was just magnificent. Gorgeous white hair. She had just taken him to the groomer, knowing she was turning him over. She wanted him to be looking his best, and he was so soft. Once you put your hands on him, you couldn't even take your hands off. He was so soft. I looked at her and I was like, how can you even not be petting him right now? And that poor girl, she was just crying. She was trying hard not to cry, but she was so upset. And I told you this story before. Remember how her husband couldn't even come with her because he was even more upset than she was? Oh, it was so hard for her. I gave her the biggest hug, and I told her that wherever he went to live, it wouldn't happen without her approval, that she would have say on what happened with him. And she said to me, I just hope he stays with you. Apparently, she knew enough about the foster. I'm getting all emotional. It's so hard for foster moms and for moms who have to give up their animals. Oh, she just wished that he would stay with me. And I was like, I don't think you know me well enough to know that. Like, that's probably a pretty good bet for a dog's future. But I said, one way or another, whatever it is, it will be good and you will have say. And I gave her a big, giant hug. And then I took this giant puppy home, giant puppy. And he went on a couple of trial adoptions. I legitimately tried to get this. I can't even finish that sentence with a straight face. because a master manifester could get a dog adopted if she really wanted to. But I did send him out on a couple of different trial adoptions that none of them worked out. At one home, he was just too much dog for them. They were big dog fans. In fact, they just lost their senior Newfie. Those are not small dogs, but they were used to a more sedate, quieter, a well-trained dog. And this puppy was already taller than their adult was. They just said he's too big for the house. He has too much energy. He's not trained. He's super stubborn. He won't listen. All of those are true. All of those were true. We'll say were true. And another trial adoption, the wife was the one who was campaigning to add him to the family. And they had a Roddy at home. They knew big dogs. They were looking for a second one, but the husband vetoed it after one weekend with him. So anyway, after 3 trials, he came back. And after that 3rd time, I was like, we're not doing that again. I remember when the boyfriend that I had at the time, when we went to go pick him up, when I got the call to go pick up the puppy, he went with me and he said, he didn't tell me this right away. He told me much later. He said, as soon as he laid eyes on that dog, he knew it was over. He's he's just the most magnificent dog. So that's the story of how he came to live with me. And that actually, you know what? The way that unfolded, that's in keeping with today's theme. Hopefully I'll remember to swing back around to that. Because here's what's happened today. So, remember Olive, the other recent rescue. She's the American Staffordshire. I still don't know how to say what she is. They probably just call them staffies. That's probably what they call them. I don't know that. A lot of people would look at her and just call her a pity. Okay. Whatever she is, she chews through toys fast. She cannot have anything with stuffing. That is not allowed. Forget regular tennis balls in one chomp. They're not a tennis ball anymore. But it takes her a while to get through a Kong. So I had ordered a couple of those for her, like the bone one and the red, and a ball that's more indestructible. But I also got treats for Samson and Harvey. And we had some cat food, and cat litter. But you know what? The cat litter got here 2 days prior, so the order got split up. The rest of it was supposed to arrive today, which is good because today's his birthday. Today's, when we want the presents. So I was sitting in the office. I'd been in the office all morning, and I got an email that said the package had been delivered, which it didn't seem like it had been delivered because I'd been here and didn't seem like anyone got here. But there was a picture included that kind of looked like the front of my house. So I was like, oh, well, maybe they delivered in stealth mode. So I looked on the porch and there wasn't anything. And I thought, well, maybe it's by the garage. And I was just in my socks and it was snowy out there. So I just jumped out real quick. I couldn't see anything. So I came back in the house and I was like, I think my package isn't making it. And that's not my most favorite thing, especially on his birthday. So I was getting ready to call Chewy. That's who was delivering it. But I thought, wait, there's one other possibility. Chad's here. Maybe he. So I texted him. He was downstairs. I texted. I said, hey, did you get the package? He said, no. He said, it's probably by the garage. Because I said, they said it's here. He said, it's probably by the garage. I said, I'm pretty sure it's not. And I love that about me. This is LOA skill number 1. I love how I was willing to be wrong. I just said, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'd popped out to look, but it was a quick look. Maybe it's there. I'm not positive. I was definitely leaning towards it's not here. But I'm willing for it to be here. But I really didn't think that the answer was for me to go look again, because I'm the one who thinks it's not here. I think the person who should look is the one who thinks it's here, because he'll see something different than me, probably, right? I've used that trick with him before. And he didn't reply right away. So I said, it needs a magic looker to go look. Hint, hint. Because you know what? Sometimes he can do things and see things and find things that I can't because he's got a different vibration than I do about it. So if I just put him on it, a lot of times it turns out way better than if it was me doing it with the pretty sure it's not vibration. You know what I mean? So he came upstairs to look. And LOA skill number 2, I was practicing imagining the satisfaction that it's here and he found it. And Olive getting to play with her new toys. I was imagining what it would sound like when I could hear him coming back through the garage and the door is like, because he's got this big awkward package in his hands. So I was imagining hearing it wasn't smooth. And then I imagined, it's good, the cats can all eat, because I've been feeding them liberally. It got cold here, we've got snow, they want more to eat. And I've been feeding like the package was going to arrive 2 days ago. So I was imagining good things, right? That was another LOA skill. But I heard him come inside, and it sounded like he was not having any trouble with a big box. So I was like, well, maybe it's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. But I didn't hear anything getting opened. And then a couple seconds later, he walked into the office empty-handed. I said, it's not there. And he just shrugged. And I was like, okay, dang. So I officially have a misplaced package now on Samson's birthday of all days. Plus, you know what? Look, we need that cat food. It's not just birthday presents we were looking forward to. They're finicky cats. They're not cool with replacements. So I need this package. All right, so I'm going to dial Chewy, and I wanted to dial him fast in case, I don't know, you never know, maybe they can track down a driver who might still be out in the area. You never know. Something cool could happen. You never know. That's LOA skill number 3, or I don't know how many skills. Leave a door open for something good to happen. So I called Chewy, and there was a super nice girl who answered on the first ring. Can I tell you how much I love that there was no phone tree, there was no hold time? Super nice girl answered on the first ring. I already like this phone call. And she didn't make this giant big deal out of authenticating my account. She was just super casual. She was like, what's your phone number? What's your address? It was smooth. And I said, your email said it's here, but it's not. And I'm looking at a photo that says delivery confirmation, but it's not here. And I said, I know it's not stolen because I've been here all day, and that's how I'm pretty sure your delivery guy didn't get here. And she said, you know what? She started to say this. They like to say this a lot. Sometimes it just takes a minute, they say, when the email gets there and your package isn't. Look, that has never been the case. But I'm positive that is not the case today because there's a picture. Okay, that's definitely not the answer, and she knew it too. So she was typing a little something, and I said, it's my dog's birthday. It's got his presents in it. And she said, she was so funny. She said, oh, don't even tell me that. She said, I don't even want to hear that. I said, I know. And she said, I'm sorry. And I said, it happens. Here's me consoling her because she feels bad about it. I'm like, it's not a big deal. It was because, you know what? I'm not giving up my good vibration. Even in this situation, I'm not giving up because I'm smart like that. I'm also practiced like that. Ooh, kind of reminds me of that episode we did a little bit ago about how I don't believe in problems anymore. So here she is apologizing. I'm like, it's going to be okay. And she was asking me questions. She's like, how old is he? I said, he's turning 2. And she said, what kind of dog? And I told her, and she could see the order. She could see all the toys, all the presents. And she was more upset about it than I was. And I'm smiling because I just liked that I was talking to someone who cared. She cared with me. I just thought that was so nice. Plus, I also know this company's going to make it right. Chewy, they are amazing. And it might take them a week. It might take 10 days, but they go above and beyond to make it right. I really like that about them. So and I tell her the story about how Samson, how he came to be in my life. I tell her the whole story. You heard me. I told it again here today, even though you've heard it before too. While I'm telling this to her, I see Chad. He's outside in the street, outside my window, and he's looking at me and he's pointing down the street. And I said, oh, hey. I said, I think I might have found it, because why else would Chad be looking at me, pointing down the street? I said, I think it's at the neighbor's. But I didn't hang up with her yet. She didn't say anything, so I went out again on the wet porch in my socks just to make sure before I hung up with her that it seemed like we got the package. And sure enough, it's at the neighbor's house. And that has never happened before. When it's been misdelivered, I mean, it gets misdelivered. But you know what? Even in those cases, we got the best community here. If you just post in the group and say, hey, I'm missing a package, you know what? It might take an hour or two, but someone's probably going to know where your package is and they will get it to you. It's so cool. Anyway, so I told her, false alarm. It was just next door, and she was happy, and I was happy. And then she reflected about how she started this call off saying, oh, don't tell me that he isn't getting his presents. And I said, "You're right. You get the credit for this. You're the magic one." I said, "You should just say that on every call you get today. Don't tell me." And we just had a great time laughing about it. And I said goodbye to her. And as I hung up with her, and I realized, it's all is well. Package's here, food's here, presents are here. I was like, you know what? But it's even better than if it had arrived like it was supposed to. It was even better. And that's been my theme for 2022. I used it in 2021. I think I even did it in 2020. I don't know how long I've been using even better to upgrade my life. But guess what? It just keeps doing it. It keeps even bettering all over my life. I love it so much. And technically, it worked to have Chad go look. Technically, he was still the magic looker. He found it when I couldn't. When I was threatening, I didn't threaten to conclude it lost. I did. I called Chewy and said, "It's not here." And he still wrangled it into our reality without too much effort, without too much time. We didn't even need Chewy to send a second set out and wait a week on it. Because he's good at seeing things that I don't. He actually did it this morning on the spelling bee. He found the pangram that I didn't. There were 2 pangrams. I know this because I look at yesterday, or no, they say hints, more hints. I looked at hints and it said there were 2 pangrams. I had one, but I could not see the other one. I was looking for it, looking. And he looks over my shoulder. He takes one glance at it. This guy who claims that he can't spell, isn't good at word games. He takes one look at it and he says, he said laugh. Okay. Oh, I hope I'm not spoiling this for anyone. As soon as he said laugh, I knew it was laughing. So I got the second pangram. I should have said spoiler alert for today's spelling bee. Okay, you know what? I won't publish this until hopefully everyone who plays has already played. Sorry about that. Okay. Here's when I knew I was going to share this story with you. When I was thinking about how it's even better because just for a minute we thought that the package wasn't here, that little bit of contrast that came up, that time I spent thinking Samson's not going to get his presents today, or Olive's not going to get her toys today, or the cats aren't going to have food today. Look, the cats all ate this morning. They're not going to starve. But that little bit of contrast, that I was going to have to go track this thing down, or I'll have to wait another week till they send another one out, or drive down to the city to go buy the stuff. That little bit of contrast is what led to even better. It led to even better, and that's what Abraham tells us, how it works sometimes. They say, sometimes our inner being steers us into contrast on purpose for the benefit it knows we will get from it. Because things want to get even better after we've had a hit of what we don't like. I say they want to get even better because we got to cooperate with that process. We got to cooperate with that process. We got to be willing to let it get even better. And that happens by not staying dialed on gigantic problem. You know what? That's happening for us right now. For you and for me, on whatever little contrast we have or big contrasts we have right now, the universe or the field or the matrix or source, whatever you want to call it, it's fixing on how to make things even better for us. All we got to do is know how to let it get even better. And I know this is an easy thing for me to be celebrating after watching the happy ending unfold. It's a little harder when we're still in crap mode, like this sucks mode. I got one of those right now. The library, someone posted, the library cat needs a new home. You know what? I'm not actually going to finish that story for you because I'm not going to lay the contrast on you. You don't need to hear it. Because sometimes you're my magic looker. You can see things that I can't. You can see things working out that I can't. You can trust that all is well. You know everything is fine, sometimes better than I do. And sometimes I'm your magic looker. Sometimes I know that for you. It just works better when we aren't saddling ourselves or each other with all the details of why this is a crap situation. It works better when we just hold it lightly and let it work out. Like, don't be so sure about how bad it is. Be willing to be wrong. Be willing to celebrate another happy ending, even if it's still in the works and you don't know how it's going to be. It just makes those happy endings easier to come by. Speaking of playing with contrast and Samson, remember how he's the one who taught us that so well? How that trainer trained him with the e-collar. I know those could be controversial, but I loved how this trainer did it. He He made me. I was like, look, I trust you. He's like, no, I want you to feel it. And he put it on the level that's where it registered with Samson, because they start at, next to 0. And then he just keeps turning it up a little until he could tell the dog felt something. Okay. He had me be holding it on my neck when Samson could register it and I couldn't feel anything. It was so subtle, he had to turn it up a couple times in order for me to feel anything. So when he says slight tingle, he means it. It's mild. And it's a tingle. It's not right to call it a shock, but it is technically, it's an e-collar, aka shock collar. That's, the sort of thing that you wouldn't normally think of as a good thing. But the way Samson got trained with it was that when that little tingle happened, that meant some sort of treat was coming. Something good was going to happen. He got trained to look to his person when he registered that tingle, because that person had something good for him. Whether it was a treat or a pat or a good boy, something good was coming. And that's how Samson learned come. That's how he learned leave it. Just that little shock. That's what it was. We could tingle, shock. It was a sign that something good was about to happen. Get a tingle? Something good's coming. Little tingle? Something good's coming. Look, we're smarter than dogs, right? We can make that association too. We can also learn that the little tingle, the little shock, the little contrast means something good is about to happen. As long as we're good at turning our attention in that direction, we can't stay dialed on problem and expect good things. So we let that little tingle, that little shock, be our cue to refocus on what we'd rather. That's actually one of the ways that I do it. I just shared that with someone the other day about how when we're focused on what we don't want, like when I notice I got a grumble, something bad, I feel a complaint starting to work its way up in me. When I notice that, sometimes I remember to pause and ask myself, what would I rather? What would I rather? Ooh, we did an episode the other day on what's in my vortex. Like in my vortex that's how we shift attention sometimes. But I also like that little, what would I rather when I feel myself dialed in a negative way? That's how I take myself from the wall to the track. Remember Tony Robbins, who told the story about how he went race car driving school one day, how to control a skid. And the instructor said, whatever you do when your car's skidding, don't look at the wall. You got to look at the track, because the car will go wherever you are focused. And Tony laughed him off and said, I teach this to people for a living. I got it. And then when it happened, he said he was like the instructor initiated the skid. He said he was like a deer in the headlights staring straight at the wall. He couldn't take his eyes off of it. He said, it's like I needed to see the death happen. And his instructor had to physically reach over and turn his head to look at the track. What would I rather is one way I turn from the contrast to the track. It's kind of a nice, easy way to do it. But you know what? I didn't even have to play that game today, because I was just enjoying the super nice customer service person who was being so friendly and helpful. And yes, I know I'm talking about a little problem here. A misdelivered package is not a big deal. But this is where we get the best training. Practice it here, where it's not a big deal, where it's easier. Because when we practice it there, then we can be better at it where it really counts, where it feels higher stakes. So that's the episode for you today that I wanted to share. Oh, and when I was talking about how Samson came to live here, about the contrast of I send him out on a trial and he comes back and people are finding things that, makes them not want to have this guy in their life. That little bit of contrast should bring Kleenexes with me when I record these. It just made it even better. That's the story of how he came to be with me. Come on. Oh, I also before I wrap up, I wanted to say thanks for all the birthday ideas that everyone emailed after I sent out a newsletter saying, I don't know what to get the guy whose favorite things are not easy to shop for. You had some fabulous ideas that we are definitely using. Thank you for those. If you're not already receiving my newsletter, you can do that just on my website, goodvibeblog.com. Sign up for anything. You'll start getting it. But I'll conclude by saying, here's to not giving up our good vibe even when it seems like things aren't going our way. In fact, here's to not being so sure that things aren't going our way. And here's to leveraging those little bits of contrast that want to turn into even better. That's how it gets even better. It doesn't happen without those. And we know how to put those to good use, right? And here's to finding reasons, or even making up reasons if we have to, finding reasons to celebrate and have a good time, like a dog's second birthday. All right. Happy birthday to Samson and happy manifesting to you. Thanks for listening, everyone.